Father Jonathon Morris joins us right now. Thank you for joining us, Father.
Hey, good morning, Larry. Good morning, Scotty.
Good morning.
Of course, you can follow Father Jonathon at Father Jonathon on Twitter, and his website is fatherjonathon.com. You know, Father Jonathon, we wanted to have you on this week anyway to talk about the impact of last week's ruling on clergy. We'll get to that in a minute, but you had an impact very, very personal this weekend during a gay pride parade in New York City. You tweeted out that you were spat upon. Can you please tell us the circumstances that surrounded this incident?
Sure, and I should start, Larry, by saying that, first of all, this story is not about me, first and foremost, and I'm sure there are many people within the gay community and people who have fought for gay marriage who have not only been spat on before, but have had a lot worse things done to them. I'm not the victim here.
Yeah.
It just happened. I put it on my Facebook, Twitter, and it kind of went viral, and that was not my intention. But what I also put on there on my Facebook and Twitter was, hey, these two guys who stepped outside of the parade, saw me and my clerics, spat on me. Who knows what their situation was? Whether they were drunk, whether they were angry, and they don't represent the majority of the people, obviously, who were in the parade. But yes, there's a lot of anger. And there's a lot of resentment, and I think what they saw in me as I was walking, I was just trying to cross the street. I was just going out to dinner there near Broadway and 22nd Street in Manhattan, and I was trying to cross the street. They saw in me somebody who stood against their idea of marriage, and they did what they did.
Well, Father, I have to ask you a question, though, and I really do applaud your grace in all of this. But when you're wearing that collar, you're not just representing Father Jonathon. You're representing the Catholic Church. You're representing the church that you're a part of. And so, they weren't, I mean, they might have known who you were and that you also have this other side of you, the more TV side, but they were actually spitting on the church. Same thing as people right now that are angry at our country and stomping on the flag and burning on it. There's just things you don't do. And we're getting, you've got Muhammad. People are upset about drawing Muhammad, and you have those kind of acts of terrorism. Mm-hmm. You've got the stepping on the flag. Now you have a priest being spat on. Could you see why people on the Christian faith are very upset that they would in any way, regardless of whatever frustrations they might have, that they would even take the step to spit on a person who represents the church?
I do understand why people would be upset, and of course I was kind of shaking after the event, and it's upsetting. But at the same time, you go on social media and you get spat on every day in different ways.
Very true.
That's just the reality, I think, of a world right now where it's easier to be anonymous. It's easier to be, these people were in their celebratory mode and they were angry, and it doesn't represent most people. So I think the response has to be from us Christians, and not only Christians, believers of all types, and even non-believers of goodwill, to respond with simple kindness. Turn the other cheek, and to recognize that it doesn't mean we don't stand up for truth and we don't speak out. It's not going to keep me from speaking out about what I believe, but the action does not invite. It shouldn't invite a similar action.
Well, I have to say, the tagline of your tweet about this, when you said, "Oh well, I deserve worse," it reminded me of my father. When I was a young boy, he took me to Mass, and we were in a pew that didn't have a kneeler, so we had to kneel on the ground. And I started to complain to my dad, saying, "This hurts my knees." And he said, "Hurts my knees too, and it's nothing compared to the suffering that Jesus had to endure." So it's that's exactly what I read when I read your message, Father.
Well, I didn't mean to compare myself to
Oh, no, of
Jesus
course
anyway,
not. But you know what I mean.
Yeah, but in other words, it's no big deal to get spat on,
yeah.
In the big picture of things. And I've received so many well wishes from people within the gay marriage activist community.
Oh, good.
Well,
I was going to ask you that.
ones.
I wanted to know if people have reached out to you who are proponents of the cause.
Yes,
good.
Without a doubt. And people... on both sides, people saying that it actually didn't happen. People saying that I said this all for publicity's sake. I did, people who know me, and we just have to leave it at that.
Father, can I ask you, as a pastor, though, what's going on within the church right now with regard to just the real life having to deal with this new reality that we're living in America after the Supreme Court decision? As a priest, as a pastor, how is it going to change the way the church goes about their business? Are you concerned that there's going to be new pressures on you now to perform these ceremonies within the confines of the church?
I think it could happen. I don't see it happening now, and I don't think we should get hysterical about it, that this is now automatically going to happen. I don't think it will happen anytime soon, because there's a lot of things that we still, as a church, are allowed to do that because we're a private, independent religious organization that is not regulated by government yet, I would say. But one very practical thing that I think that churches in the United States should change, Catholic churches, Christian churches, any church that believes in the traditional definition of marriage, is that we should get out of the business of being officiants of the state. When I do a marriage, for example, I sign, as Father Jonathon Morris, I sign the marriage license, and then it's sent into the city, and that's considered valid as a civil document. Then I am the officiant of the state in this case. I think we have to get out of that, because I think that does put ties between the civil marriage and the sacramental marriage, the church wedding, in a way that I think will become problematic.
Interesting.
Well, lots of problems, talking about problems. I'm going to switch gears just real quickly. A lot of parents today, that are on the Christian movement are going, how do I explain this? If you go through social media, our children are seeing some pictures of some very perversion. Is there any advice you give to parents today who are trying to explain what this new law is, what this is, what gay marriage is to younger children? Is there a way through Christian eyes that we should be doing this?
I say be as open and transparent and with your kids as possible. What they see at school, on social media, and the internet is way more than anything we ever saw. Better to talk with them about it. I'll give you an example. My two of my nieces and nephews sent me notes yesterday. John, they call me. Hey, John, you're trending on Facebook. Their mother said to me, "What does that mean?" That's an example of. It's a different world that kids are living in, and we just have to be very open and completely, I would say, transparent with them and say, hey, listen, what is your situation of, they know of kids who have two moms. They know of kids in their class that have two dads. That's just the reality of it. As a Christian and as a Catholic priest, too, another way I think I can show that to all the kids in my church is I would welcome any gay family that comes into my church. I would baptize their children. I would let that family be a part of our activities at the church, 100%. That's a change in my relationship, I would say, to the whole issue. I don't think 5 years ago I would have said that. But things have changed. Pope Francis has helped me personally to try to understand how I can be a better expression of love to people with whom we disagree. And I think it's a world that we're now living in that we can either run away from and hide and be Christian ghetto, or we can make a difference in the world as Jesus did in his own world.
Father Jonathon,
walked the earth.
Father Jonathon Morris, the parishioners at Our Lady of Mount Carmel in the Bronx are lucky to have you, and we're lucky to have you when you join us. Thanks so much for being here today.
You, guys.
Once again, his book, the New York Times bestselling author of the book, The Way of Serenity, Father Jonathon Morris.